We're going to give people a few moments to hop on with us tonight. I am super, super excited to be here with all of our amazing panelists. My name is Stephen Knight, and I am here tonight representing on behalf of Nightlife Creative in partnership with Trey's Lunchbox, an amazing organic bamboo-based nutrition, family-oriented tableware brand for all of your children that is putting diversity, inclusivity, and healthy meal choices at the forefront of the dining table. So before we get started tonight, I would like to just introduce a couple of our speakers. Of course, in a minute, I'm going to turn it over to the lady of the hour, Desiree Mingo, who is the owner and CEO of Trey's Lunchbox. But let's introduce a couple of our panelists first. First, we have Jessica Ladden, who is a perinatal mental health certified counselor and the owner of JL Counseling. Jessica, just give them a wave really quickly so they can see who you are. Perfect. Next, we have Cha-Cha Miller, who is a licensed diet nutritionist and the owner of a fantastic website, The Cardamom. It's a wonderful brand. You'll want to check that out. And we're going to make sure to drop all the links to that in the comments. And finally, we have Brittnee Cannon, a registered dietitian and owner of Your Plant-Based Baby, another wonderful and exciting website where you'll get lots and lots of information on wellness and nutrition for your baby. So without further ado, I'm gonna shut up because it's not about me tonight. It's about all these amazing women on the screen. Desiree, I'll let you take it away and I'll hop off the screen. All right, Desiree, you're up to ask some questions.
All right, guys. Stephen, be sure, let me know that you can hear me. I know I was having a little issues in the back. We're good? Okay, we're good. If I start cutting out, feel free to take over, please.
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to start off. Stephen went ahead and introduced who you are and a little bit about what you do as a professional. I want to dive into what actually led you into this career, into your industry, and what you're doing today. And I'll go ahead and start with Brittnee, if you don't mind starting with it.
Sure. So I would say it really probably started when I first became an aunt in 6th grade. My brother lived with us in the house, so essentially I became on baby duty often. And since then, I've had tons of additional nieces and nephews, and I've just really grown a heart for taking care of little ones, and family is very important to me. So when I found my passion in nutrition and then soon plant-based nutrition, I just kind of knew that I really wanted to work with moms and infants and children. So I have pretty much been finding my way through that. Through my internship, my nutrition internship, I had some different options to see different pretty much areas of the pediatric world. And here I am now deciding to do private practice and specifically teaching plant-based nutrition to new moms and their babies.
How exciting is that? Thank you for sharing that with us. I was talking to myself a minute, put it on mute, forgot I was on mute, but it's okay. We're going to work this thing out. Yes. Jessica, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. So what kind of led me to this, I always knew that I wanted to be in a profession to like help somebody, but I didn't quite know what that was when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, I didn't necessarily think, oh, I want to be a counselor when I grow up. I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. And then eventually when I got into college, I thought about being a teacher, and that was actually my first major. And then I switched to psychology. And I was just so fascinated by the mind and how it worked. And I just wanted to dive into it deeper. And so I went on ahead to graduate school and I majored in counseling and guidance. What kind of led me towards the perinatal mental health side of it, working with pregnant and postpartum women, was because of my own experience. In 2017, my husband and I, we miscarried. And then immediately after that, we got pregnant with our now 4-year-old daughter, Bella. She's our second child. And throughout that entire pregnancy, I was super on edge, had a lot of perinatal anxiety. And I also dealt with depression during that pregnancy as well, because I had gestational diabetes. We were also told that she could possibly have Down syndrome. And so we had to go through testing and things like that while I was pregnant. And so, of course, I was just on pins and needles, kind of waiting for the results of that. Well, fortunately, she was healthy and fine. And but I had a lot of, you can probably imagine what I was going through. And so I did have postpartum depression with her as well. I didn't really start feeling like myself until she was around 7 months. But fortunately, because I am a counselor, I was more aware than I think the average mother would be. And so I did things that I knew I needed to do in order to help myself through that process. And so because of that, because that was such like a jolting time period for me, and then just talking to other women, even some close friends that I had no idea had gone through the same things that I had gone through, because a lot of women just kind of suffer in silence and they don't talk about it. I was like, oh no, like I want to be that resource for moms who maybe they don't have access to that type of resource, or they don't know anybody who understands what they're going through. Because when we miscarried, our doctor just told us we could try again, and they didn't provide us any type of mental health resources or anything like that. And so that's really just been my main mission for the last 3 years that I've been in private practice, is to really just go head into raising awareness about maternal mental health in general, and helping women and their families be able to support them.
Wow. That's really good to be a resource to, drive awareness to that. That's very important. And it's coming from experience. So you're so relatable. That's awesome. We'll definitely dive into that a little bit more. Cha, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, so again, hi everyone. My name is Cha, and I am a pediatric registered dietitian. And kind of what led me to pursue the field. So I've always had an interest in health and nutrition, but really the pursuit of health equity, that was kind of like my driving force. And that's really what led me to my career as a dietitian. This is a second career for me. So I was doing something completely different before, and I had to, switch lanes 100%. So, having grown up in Los Angeles and gone to undergrad in DC, I've also lived in a lot of major cities across the US. The stark contrast in available resources in communities of color versus predominantly white communities, it just became so glaringly apparent. And so as I began to, dig into the research and the stats, I started to learn about how communities of color are disproportionately impacted by nutrition-related chronic diseases. And the thing is, it's like the media will have you believe it's because we're, sitting around eating fried chicken all day. But that is not the truth. It's because we don't have access to grocery stores with fresh produce, and we don't have green spaces to exercise, and we live in neighborhoods that are, riddled with fast food chains and, bodega-like corner stores, and we don't have access to healthcare. And, the list really goes on and on. So really it's all of these things that are not within our control that are making us sicker. And that is not okay. So I really wanted to be a part of that change. I really wanted to be a part of shifting that narrative and being, a relatable person to communicate nutrition education to communities of color and to people who lack access to nutrition education and things of that nature. And I really just, I want to make families feel comfortable with the choices that they're making when they're feeding their children. So
that's awesome. And then the fact that you actually, this is your second career, you shifted because you saw a need. And I'm hearing that, across the board collectively, we shifted normally from experience, or because we see a need. And that is what I love so much about you all, is because I feel like you are doing, the work, and that's so important. And so leading from that, I want to talk about, since we are in this talking about our careers and things of that nature, I want to talk more about some misconceptions that, about who you are, what it is that you do that you hear so often. And I'll leave this to whoever wants to start with that, about what you do.
I'll go. I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about mental health in general, because there's such a huge stigma surrounding it, with everybody, but especially in the Black community. One thing that I talked about with somebody the other day was that you don't have to have a mental health diagnosis to go to counseling. There doesn't have to be something wrong with you to go to counseling.
Yeah.
So I always tell people that you don't have to have a serious mental illness to come talk to me. A lot of people come to me for transition things. I've had somebody come to me because they were moving to another state and they just wanted to kind of get help with that transition period. I do couples counseling, like for premarital counseling, and nothing is really there's no major problems in the relationship. They just want to make sure that they have everything together before they get married. So, people come to therapy for different reasons, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing. I always tell people that it can't hurt. It's not going to hurt anything. It's only going to help. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions. And then also a lot of people don't know like the difference between, I get called doctor a lot, and I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. So I think there needs to be more education definitely on the different types of providers. So I'm a licensed professional counselor. I don't prescribe medication. I did not go to medical school. But for those who are seeking medication, I can refer them to a psychiatrist or to a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And then also a lot of people are afraid of medication. They think, oh, I don't want to be zombified, or I don't want to be dependent on medication. And I think that that's kind of a myth that people have. Maybe they saw somebody when they were a kid that was very zombified or something like that, and it kind of scared them. But if somebody is zombified, that may mean that maybe their medication is off, and they might need to talk to their medical provider about that. But that really depends on each individual. So you will only know what works for you if you try it. And also I don't push medication on people. Now, medication, there's nothing wrong with medication if you need it, because sometimes our mental health issues are situational or environmental, and sometimes they are genetic and they are biological, and sometimes they're chemical. There's a chemical imbalance, and you might need some medication, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on it permanently. It may just depend on the individual. So I think those are some common misconceptions with my field of work in general.
I can definitely agree with that, because I have heard, all three of those. And I've even, may have fell into one of those categories of not wanting to do, take medicine, literally, because I'm like, well, I'm me, I'm more of the holistic, natural, but I'm all for getting, help, the help that I need or what have you in that. So that's good. Who else would like to speak on this?
I can go next. So the dietetic profession in general kind of turns a lot of people of color off. I feel like it's kind of similar to mental health. It's like, things we don't talk about. But I think one of those reasons is because health and nutrition and modern wellness culture are so heavily rooted in whiteness and in these Western standards of acceptance. So I guess one of the biggest myths that I like to dispel is that because Western diet culture will have you thinking that you need to give up your cultural foods, you need to give up your familiar foods in exchange for kale and quinoa, and that's not true. On my page and in my practice, I really try to overemphasize this message. You see what I feed my daughter every night pretty much. So I try to, share my cultural foods and educate on the benefit of those foods. And I really try hard to make families feel confident in the choices that they're making about feeding their children, because there's really nothing wrong with your cultural foods. In fact, a lot of our cultural foods, whether that's, whether you're Black, whether you're Indian, whether you're from wherever, like a lot of those foods have been appropriated and co-opted by white wellness culture and transformed into something completely different. And it's like, wait a minute, a couple years ago, y'all weren't even on kale.
Right.
Y'all weren't even on avocados. Like, do you know where those originated? Like, avocados used to be, a childhood thing. We had an avocado tree in the backyard. Now they're charging $15 for toast. And it's like, wait a minute. So that is really the biggest myth, that you have to give up the things that you love in pursuit of health or in pursuit of wellness. And you really don't. It's all about balance. And there's a lot of nutrients in your cultural foods. You're just not being educated on them.
Absolutely. I can agree with that so much. And, we've had previous conversations about that. It's just always about, like you spoke, being educated, knowing how to pair those foods, knowing when, and, too much of anything is just not good for you. So it's not about the food. It's about, the education behind it and knowing how to utilize it and when. Okay, Brittnee.
Okay. So in case it wasn't clear, because I think I skipped over it, I'm also a registered dietitian, like Cha-Cha. So I'm definitely going to piggyback on everything she just mentioned. But I would also like to add, from my nutrition perspective with plant-based and vegan nutrition, the biggest myths, especially through different cultures, is that, it's not possible, it's not healthy, just so much more negatives without even really thinking about what the switch is nutritionally. So I really am here to just, talk about how plant-based nutrition is really just eating more fruits and vegetables, more, grains, more things that people are already probably eating, just in smaller quantities. And just also from the pregnancy, baby perspective, it's nutritious and perfect through all stages of life. So again, the things that we are trying to do as adults, why does it have to be so different when we're trying to feed our babies? We can think of their meals from our meals, and it can just continue with that family unit and just, keeping the stress away from the table and an enjoyable time.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. When feeding your kid, it doesn't have to be hard. And of course, we all speak to mothers, and we look for those shortcuts. We look for those convenient things, and being upfront and honest, like, no, I just pull my kids from food from what we're eating. I may add a little something or take away a little something. But having to cook 2 separate meals, you don't necessarily have to do that ever, really.
Exactly.
You can adjust. Definitely. We have a question. Do you see the culture of food excuse a lot working with children? Hold on, here we go. I definitely get that a lot with working with adults. So the question is, do you see the culture of food excuse a lot working with children? Whoever would like to take that, Brittnee or Cha-Cha?
I do see that a lot. And let me make sure I understand the question. So are we talking about from the patient perspective, like they're saying, oh, I'm like not supposed to eat my cultural foods, but I'm still eating them? Or are we talking about from like the other way around where, providers are saying, oh, this is the reason why, this person has these conditions going on? Just want to be clear.
Okay, I'll let him clear that up. And while we do that, we're gonna kind of take a little small shift. Still the same, Cha-Cha, when you were talking about things we don't talk about. and in the culture, like it's like the taboo thing. So I definitely want to use this opportunity to kind of shift into motherhood, because a lot of things I think we don't talk about there with motherhood. And so I just want to get everyone's perspective on that. So like, what do you think people fail to kind of like mention or talk about when it comes to motherhood that should be made more of a topic or a conversation? Yes, let's go with that. And then I'm gonna double back to the question in the chat. Okay, so we'll go with that. Let's talk.
You want me to start with this?
Sure.
So Jessica actually touched on this a bit when she did her intro, and I was like really over here in my mind, like, girl, like 2 snaps and a twist, because you are speaking nothing but truth. I think when it comes to motherhood, like people talk about the general sacrifices that you'll make, like, oh, you'll lose sleep, or maybe you'll see your friends less, things that are kind of like, okay, no big deal. But I feel like what no one really talks about is how in becoming a mother, it is like the sacrifice of self, like your actual self, like who you are, that is the most jarring and is the thing that nobody prepares you for. Like you're literally no longer the same person. So you're trying to piece together, who you used to be with who you are now. And that just gets confusing, and it gets emotional, and you feel all types of crazy, and no one talks about it. Like no one talks about the redefinition of self that you have to experience. And like Jessica mentioned, we're oftentimes going through this on our own. We're not necessarily sharing. Like Jessica said, it took her, until her daughter was 7 months to feel like herself again. My child is 3 and I still don't feel like myself. And I'm pregnant with a second child. And I'm just like, what is even about to happen? Like, Jessica, I need your number, girl. Because I have no idea what is about to happen. Like, who even am I? So that's really the thing that no one talks about.
I can agree with that. And just to piggyback off of that a little bit, it affects the relationships in your life that you had prior to. And because you are simply trying to redefine yourself or find your space again, and the expectation of maybe the outside world or your friends and family still remains to who you was before a child, so that gets touchy, confusing, like you said. But I'm gonna let Jessica, come on, you want to jump in?
Yeah, like I totally agree. So it's about balance, and we don't really talk about that. And I think a lot of times we are just based off of like television and things that we see. Maybe we may have seen our mothers kind of devote their all to us, or grandmother devote their all to us, and we don't see their struggle behind closed doors, because maybe that wasn't talked about. My mom was a pretty open person. I think she kind of rebelled against that in our family, of just kind of keeping stuff quiet. But I think that it's important for us to talk about our struggles and be transparent with people. I can't tell you how many mothers I see that they want to do things, but they refuse to ask for help. Because they're my kids and they're my responsibility, and I don't want to bother anybody else. And that's the point of the village, like we hear that a lot about it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. And I think we definitely need to get back to that, because me and my husband, like, we have a really great village. Like, we have grandparents, we have aunts and uncles, and like, even though we're both together, like, it's still hard, like, being a parent. And it is hard to like adjust and still maintain like that sense of who you are. Like, I'm not just, and it was so funny, like when my son was like 1 year old, when they start like walking and talking at daycare, and all the little kids are walking and talking, and they're like, "Hey, Alex's mom." And I'm like, "Oh, that's my name now." So it's like, I don't even have a name anymore. Like you totally, it's like, it's like your identity is like totally taken away. And so I work with moms all the time about like trying to separate and like compartmentalize, like you're not just, you know, somebody's mom or somebody's wife or partner or whatever, like there's many facets to you. And so, and you can still do the things that you used to do before you had a child, but you might need to just kind of, you know, tweak it a little bit or ask for help. And so I think that that's a big thing, is like just finding that balance is something that people aren't very transparent about and don't really warn us about.
That's right. That's so true. You know, yeah, that I can just agree with all of those points. Brittnee, I'm gonna let you speak on that, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. I think you're still on mute, Brittnee.
So I was thinking, when you first asked the question, you know, the other side of that is how the moms should be able to trust their instincts, basically. And I feel like it's constantly, whether it be through, you know, your mom, your grandmom, or even from your healthcare professionals, it's like, you know, you're fine. It's constantly like kind of belittled and like, you know, like you should be dealing with that on your own, or you should be able to handle that. And I just feel like it just sucks that there's that lack of support and that immediate kind of, I don't know, like negative push down almost that you don't know what you're doing, even though, you know, you've been through so much already. Why shouldn't you be able to get through this and trust your instincts on it? So I just wish that it was able to be more open and like, you know, people understood mothers' abilities a little bit more, I guess.
Brittnee, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is your perspective. Are you a mom?
I am not.
You're not a mom, so that's what
We
I wanted
are
to point out.
TTC.
Okay. So I wanted to kind of point that out, that, you know, you see that also from the outside. We're speaking from experience, and then from the outside, and you can still see those things that are not talked about, that are not, you know, at the forefront of motherhood. And like you spoke, Jessica, about balance, finding that balance. What are some things, maybe give me about one or two things that kind of helped you find your balance in that transition period from, oh, I'm a mom, like what helped you, things help you find your balance?
Most definitely. For me, having the support of like my husband and my family, and being able to work. I know some people are stay-at-home moms and like that's a job too. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, you work more than me. You know, like, you know, like, because your job never stops if you're a stay-at-home mom. So I tell them like, no, you do have a job. Let's get that straight. But I enjoy like being able to get out of the house and do my job. Because that's one thing that I really missed when I was on maternity leave. I know some mom, and that's a misconception that everybody likes to stay at home with their baby. I didn't really enjoy that. It was very boring to me. And it's very isolating as well. Like I love my kids, but I also enjoy working too. So getting back to work definitely helped me to find that balance, to be like, okay, this is something you're good at. Like this is something that you enjoy. And then also I compete in beauty pageants. I've been competing in beauty pageants since I was 19. When I was in college, I competed for Miss Louisiana Tech University. And I've just been competing, you know, off and on since then. And when I got married, I still competed but in the Mrs. categories. And so I still do that. I'm preparing for a pageant now. So that helps me to like, not only maintain like my self-esteem and my confidence, but it helps me to, because I have to train for like swimsuit. And so I have to exercise regularly, and just it helps in so many ways. So those are the two things that have really given me balance and kind of kept me connected to some things that I enjoyed even before I became a mother.
I like that. I like that a lot. That you don't typically hear that I enjoy working, like I want to go to work. I don't want to be here. And that, excuse me, from my experience, I played both parts. I've been a working mom. And then when COVID hit, I transitioned into a full-time stay-at-home mom because we made the decision that he wasn't going to go to school anymore. So that kind of and I was thinking, so then we recently moved to Dallas because I took a job, and I was excited about that because I felt like I need a break, I need a break. I can't be a mom full time. And I'm an ambitious woman, still with running Trey's Lunchbox. So I'm like, I need a break. I just need to work. I want to work. It just makes me happy. Even if it doesn't contribute to the household, it makes me happy. It makes me feel, like I'm doing something. So it felt good. I felt seen when you said that, I really felt seen because I'm like, am I weird? Because I need a minute, give me a minute, I need to work. So that's good that you said that. Cha-Cha, you want to jump in?
Yeah, and it's so funny that both of you are on this same wavelength because I'm the same exact way. So I guess it's three weirdos on the panel today, because work was something, just like you mentioned during COVID, you made the decision to give up your job to be a stay-at-home mom. That was not an option for me. That option, me giving up doing what I love, we're gonna have to figure something else out because if I have to stay home with my child all day, this may be controversial, but I promise you I will love her less if I have to be with her all day. Our relationship will be strained. Neither of us will benefit from that. I need her to go somewhere so that when she comes home, I can be so excited and just give her all the love.
And that's honest. That's what we're having, this candid conversation, that it makes sense. Things that we don't talk about as mothers. It's real. We need a break. We're human, And also, Jessica, I like how you said you held on to something previous to being a mother, which was pageants. You no, I'm not letting this go. I love this. I'm gonna hold on to this. And it's gonna make me, it's drawing that connection. I like that word, that connection to, I still feel it's a good balance. I love that. And you I would love her less. I get that. I can feel the strain on me and Trey's relationship when we are together too long. I just came back from a week vacation and I feel better. I'm happy to see him. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing that really helps me with balance is therapy. We've already mentioned that's a thing we don't really talk about. But like Jessica said, there doesn't need to be something wrong with you. But yeah, therapy has gotten me through some of the, darkest, most challenging times, while I was pregnant, postpartum, COVID, all of that. That is really what keeps me grounded and what keeps me safe.
That makes sense. I'm loving this conversation so much. Did anyone want to jump in before we move to the next question? Anyone have anything to add? Jessica, I saw you come off of mute. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything else or not.
Oh, no, I was just gonna add, those are things that a lot of moms come into my office and say, because they feel like they can't say it to anybody else, or people are gonna judge them and think that they're a terrible mother. And I'm like, no, it's real. Everybody, pregnancy is not always fun. Being a mom is not always butterflies and rainbows. And, sometimes you want your kids to go somewhere. And it doesn't make you ungrateful. I think also, I could see it from both ends, because if you've had a miscarriage or something, you feel well, I should be grateful for every moment with my child, and there's parents out there that can't have kids. So we guilt ourselves into thinking we shouldn't feel certain ways, but we're all entitled to feel the way we want to feel in different moments. And it doesn't mean you always think that way or always feel that way. It's just, especially I feel if you don't have other things that interest you, like hobbies, or if you don't go to therapy and things like that, you can kind of just get sucked into just only being a mom, and it can be quite exhausting and overwhelming.
Exhausted and overwhelming are very good words to describe that. Well, while we're talking about that, we talked about, feeling isolated, feeling guilty, with parenthood and things of that nature. Let's talk about some wins. Let's talk about some things where we actually felt like, you know what, I'm doing this thing right. I'm getting this right. I'm figuring this thing out. So if you had to pick, like, what was your biggest parenting win thus far? But remember, Brittnee, this can include anything, whether you've given support to your family, your friends, or clients if you don't have kids. So just let me know about your biggest win thus far. It could be parenting, or even if it's in your profession.
Yes, so I actually have a unique situation in that I've literally grown up with my nieces in my household, but they also still live with my mom now. And that's where I'm actually at during the day. So my mom and I basically, it feels like we co-parent my nieces. So that's really also where a lot of my perspective comes from. We make a lot of decisions together and just figuring that all out. So when I think of this question, I think about when, it just seems like you can't help them with something and you're trying, you're doing your best you can. And, it just feels like you're not getting anywhere, basically. And you don't know what else to do. You tried reaching out to other sources or, working with them yourself. And then it's just, I don't know, a day and you realize something happens and you just wake up to like, wow, like you're actually doing that thing you didn't think you could do, or like we're actually now in a better place, whether it's emotionally, psychologically. You can just see it in people when they're different. And then you have the principal and the teachers, they're also like leaving good comments and letting you know like just about their progress. And it's just like, wow, okay, like
you feel like you contributed to that.
Yes.
Like, I'm doing something right. I'm helping,
Yes.
You are being that support that we're talking about. You're being that support that we need, and from someone who family does not live where she lives, it's so needed. It's so needed. I can't go to grandma. I can't go to anybody. Like, nobody, my friends are like, what's up? I got my own kids. what we gonna do? So yes, you are being that support. It is so needed. Whoever else wants to talk about that.
I would say, let's see, because I don't know. I tell people all the time, I'm like, there's no perfect parent, and we're all just like winging this thing, because there really is, like, there's all kinds of books out there, but those books are based on those people's experiences and what they've learned over time. So what works for you works for you. I'd say maybe, gosh, I'm just very proud that I have a little Black boy that loves to read and loves school. And I'm really happy that my daughter is like, kind of following in my footsteps with the pageantry and stuff like that. Like, she just won a pageant this weekend, and I was like, oh, she's like listening to me. Like, she was listening to me for real, because I wasn't sure like how it was gonna go, and I was a little worried on Saturday, but she came through. So I like, it's kind of scary becoming a parent, because you're like, I'm like responsible for like creating a future adult, and like so like you're constantly questioning, is everything that you're doing right, and just from I appreciate having the profession that I have, because I've been able to counsel children and I've been able to counsel adults, and so I see like children who aren't taken care of properly, or maybe their parents made some mistakes, and I see the adults that they turn into. So that makes me a better parent as well. I would say that another win of mine was with my son and my daughter. They're very big on routines, and I tell people this all the time. Like, if you want people ask me like, how do you get your child to do this, or how do you get them to do X, Y, Z? And a lot of that started, when they were like 2 years old, with a chart. And even though they couldn't read, like, I would put pictures on the chart and it would tell them what to do in the morning. So the morning routine and night routine, and it would have pictures on there. So they knew what the pictures meant, like your toothbrush, brush your teeth, pick up your toys as like a little toy box, so that really helped a whole lot with helping them get on a routine, and it made things less stressful for us. And my husband was like, this is not gonna work. And he was like, this is some white people stuff. And he was like, and I was like, it is going to work because I do it in therapy. And so when we tried it with our kids, he was like, oh, okay, so this does work. So that was a win for me. Like my husband being like, oh yeah, you were right. Like
That's a win.
That's a win. And then just, having kids that are, they're just great. Like they're just really great kids. And I'm super proud of them. And I know that part of that is because of what I do. So some of it I think is innate. I think all children are just innately good kids. They just need the right guidance. So
I can definitely agree with that. And I am a lover of routine because it builds the child's confidence when they know what to expect. So it's like, even if it's brushing teeth, if it's washing your face, if it's making your bed, they can come to you and say, I did everything. It builds that confidence of, I know what to do. No one has to tell me what to do. I'm a big boy. I'm a big girl, so it's I know your husband, and I can hear him saying what he said. That's funny to me, but I mean, it's real. It's real. It happens in every household. And sometimes, our partner may not understand what we're doing, but we literally took time to research this thing and figure out this thing. And then it's always trial and error. Like you said, we're winging it. We are literally winging this thing. Cha-Cha, you want to tell us about a win?
Yeah, because I work in the nutrition space and I talk a lot about feeding kids and, allowing them to build trust within their bodies and allowing them to make choices in terms of what they're eating. I talk about this all day at work. I talk about this all day on Instagram. This is what I talk about all the time. So it kind of like, is on repeat in my head. But then when I see what I preach about in practice and when I see it in execution and when I see like, oh, I talk about this a lot with my clients and with my patients. And I do this with my daughter, and this thing actually works. Like, those are always the moments where I'm just like, okay, like this makes sense. I feel like I'm doing something right. Like Rain knows how to trust her body. She knows how to, assert herself at the table. She knows how to ask for certain things. She knows what she likes. She knows what she doesn't like. She's confident exploring new foods, but she also knows that she doesn't have to if she doesn't want to. So, we eliminate diet culture, by any means in our household. We don't talk about healthy versus unhealthy food. We talk very neutrally about food. So it's really wonderful to see that Rain has these skills at such a young age, because even me as an adult, like I struggled all through adolescence and through my young adulthood with, disordered eating, simply because of, the what society was projecting on me in terms of how I should look and what I should be eating and what was good and what was bad. And so the fact that Rain at 3 years old has these skills, and I'm a grown woman and I still like don't always trust my body, and I still might overeat when I'm feeling like, oh, I gotta eat this thing because it's a bad thing. Like, let me be over here in this corner indulging is like amazing to me. I'm like, this little person is so smart, and I created her and I gave her these tools so that she can execute these behaviors successfully. So that is really like my biggest parenting win, because she just amazes me all the time.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's what it's all about when we always mention, changing a generation or passing down something. It's about learning, educating yourself, understanding the tools necessary to pass down, and then giving them the space to use the tools, to utilize the tools. versus forcing and putting that pressure on them, especially at the dinner table. I think it's super important. And I love, love, love what you're doing for that community. It's super important. You know how I feel about it. So, and that is a win for me too. You like to see when parents are implementing it. Every time I get on IG and see a Trey's Lunchbox plate, I'm like, someone gets it, like they get it, you know? So it really just, that's just a win for me. I'm like, oh my God, like someone literally, I can just scroll and literally see the plate and someone's utilizing it in the way that they want to. And when parents say things like, you know, my child wouldn't eat before, or they wouldn't do, but if we put it on the plate, or, you know, present it in a way of with shapes, like you said, they eat it, you know, it's different. I'm like, right, it's not tricking. We're not going to trick you. We're going to inform you and let you know, yes, vegetables are gone in this smoothie and it still tastes well, doesn't it? You know, like that, instead of sneaking vegetables into that. We don't want to dive into that, because then that's something else I'm sure Jess can talk about. You know, we don't want to lie to our children. We want to be sure that we're upfront and honest. They're humans, you know. And I like that you said how she's already, you know, utilizing the tools that you provided her. We can stay here. We can go to the next question. Brittnee, do you have anything to add to that? I know that is definitely your area. How are your nieces and nephews with the plant-based nutrition? Like, how is that going in the household? How do they feel about that?
It's incredible. You know, being the modeling as an example has never been more in my face of the truth throughout these past 15 years, watching them all grow up, especially because of where I was at then versus now. And even my brother now, he's pretty much 100% plant-based, and he has a 2-year-old. So it's been great to try to navigate it for him, as well as in my own little direct circle. So for me, it's awesome because every time they come over, it's like they immediately ask, you know, I want an orange, I want an apple, can we make a smoothie, can we do this? And it's just like, yes, of course. Like like it's just, and then, you know, then my brother says, oh, they don't eat that at home, or oh, they don't want this at home, or it's just like different things like that. Or even to this day, my niece, anytime she has a, you know, breakfast or fruit, whatever it is, she's always like, Aunt Brittnee, guess what? I had this today. I had this, and this, or I drank this much water. And I'm like, I'm glad that you know that that's like a positive thing for you, and that I would appreciate that you're doing that. So
right,
it's just
they're
like,
proud of themselves for making better choices.
yes.
You know? And you definitely feel like, you know what, I contributed to that. You know, it's good. And then still, you're not taking their choices away. They are making better choices, you know, because you're not there saying, drink this water, you have to drink this water, or you got to have this, but they have the choice. And that's important, because as humans, I like options. I like options. I want to know where we're going to eat. I want to, you know, I want to have options. We all like options as humans. I want to let me go back while we were talking about nutrition to the question, Cha-Cha, in the chat. Which again, I'm going to rephrase it. They do want to know about both. They said actually they would like to know about both. She didn't think about it that way. Would you like me to repeat the question, or you got it?
Yeah, so I have it. So basically the question is asking, you know, do I see the cultural food excuse a lot working with children? I definitely get that a lot working with the adults. And so we're asking about this from provider side, as well as client side. So client side. So, you know, whenever I'm working with children, I'm generally working with the parents, because they are the one who, you know, who does the feeding in the household. They are the one who controls the nutrition that the child is intaking. So I do hear a lot of parents who feel the need to restrict certain foods or eliminate certain foods, or who feel insecure about certain foods a lot because of this message that Western diet culture sends, where it's like, you know, these foods are over here and your foods are down here. So I do see that a lot, and I have to help them reframe and, you know, think about what it is they're doing, think about really the components of these dishes, because, you know, a lot of like my cultural foods, they have so many vegetables and, you know, so many grains, and we're using all of these, you know, these great beneficial plant foods for our health. Again, it's not just, you know, fried chicken or whatever. We're using all these amazing plant foods that are so beneficial for health and so beneficial for the body. And, you know, Western diet culture, they kind of like group basically all like non-white foods in one category. I mean, just to put it, you know, super simply, it's just all in one category. Like all that stuff over there that, you know, the Black and brown people are eating, that goes into the same pot, but it's not. So I do see that a lot from the client side, and then from the provider side as well. They will blame the foods that people are eating, which, and the thing is, like, yes, it may be the foods that people are eating. However, there is a reason that they are eating that food. And a lot of times that comes from lack of access, lack of resources, and lack of education. So we're not really addressing the root cause. So it's like, yes, they may be eating these things, but it's because they don't have access to anything better. So let's talk about what we can do to improve that access. So that is one thing that really frustrates me, because we're not really getting the care that we need. Because for a lot of these healthcare providers, they're like, oh, they kind of dismiss these people as, oh, you know, being lazy or being uncommitted or not willing. And it's like, well, they don't know. And you're not taking the time to educate, and you're not doing what you can do on the provider side to really help them navigate this problem. So that's why I'm here. That's why I became a dietitian, because I am actually willing to sit down and take the time. Like, you know, you don't know what you don't know. So how can you expect someone to do better if they don't know better? You have to teach them, and then you have to help them, and then you have to, you know, continue to help them. It's not just like,
Right.
oh, okay, I get it. So yeah, there are a lot of steps, a lot of factors, a lot of things to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear from both ends.
For sure. I hope that answered your question, Dee. We are like right at 7:52. So I want to ask one more question, and then I want to talk about how the audience can follow you in your ambitions right now. So the question that I want to end with is, being a mother, a partner, a provider, a professional, and an aunt, it can take up a lot of how we navigate, you know, or move throughout the world. But these things are only literally just like one aspect of who we are. So how do you work to maintain your individuality, basically in your everyday life, and make time to be yourself? Whoever wants to start with that. Jessica? You knew I was going to call you.
Okay, so how do I maintain my individuality? I mean, I guess when I think of that, I guess I just kind of think about self-care, and just not, which is part of the reason why I went full-time private practice, so that I can choose my own schedule, and make time for myself in the morning. So I really don't start my day till like 10 a.m. and I love it, because I get to exercise. I have to exercise every day. And that really helps, like, with my anxiety and just being able to just start the day off better. I also just, I don't know, I just worry about myself. I think that's a good way to maintain your individuality. I used to have really low self-esteem, but as I've matured and gotten older, I've realized that I don't have to be like anybody else. I could just be happy with who I am. And, you know, we see a lot of things just as about parenting and about just, you know, fashion and everything else. And so I just do what Jessica wants to do. And I think that's so important when you're raising kids as well, because they're looking at you and they're gonna see how you take care of yourself, or, you know, the thing, if you say anything negative about yourself or how you carry yourself. So I really try to prioritize just, doing the things that I enjoy, being healthy, and just focusing on myself and being my true self, and not trying to like imitate the moms, like the Instagram moms that you see, where it's like their house is like immaculate and it's like spotless, and it's like that's not realistic.
That's not real. That's not real. It's not real. It's not real in any capacity. It's just not real. It's not happening. I love that you said, you went away from, you know what, I'm just going to focus on self. And that's important. When you focus on what's at your core, you automatically exude who you truly are. It's just going to be there. Cha-Cha, do you want to talk about how you maintain your individuality in your everyday life or making time for yourself?
Yeah, so I was not quick to answer this question because I'm not even going to lie. I am still trying to figure this out. So I, wish I could say I have this like great hobby that helps ground me that I do every day. Like, I draw every day, or I don't know, make pottery every day.
I love it. Honesty. I love it because we're navigating it, right?
Exactly. And I think that is okay for this stage of life that I'm in. Life is going to be, it's a series of ebbs and flows. So I think, and maybe this is what I say to myself to make myself feel better, but my time to reclaim self, it's not gone forever, but maybe it's just not priority right now. I will get it back eventually, and I do what I can. Exercising is really important to me right now. Ideally I would love to exercise 4 to 5 times a week. I don't have that kind of time right now, but I do have 2 days a week. So I make sure to prioritize my fitness on those 2 days. I staying connected with my best friends. That's really important to me. So the group chat is live. The group chat is popping every single day. So I do that. So that helps me, kind of come back to who I am. But outside of that, again, I'm really just trying to figure it out. It's one day at a time for me.
And thank you for that transparency, because we don't have it all figured out. I'm still working on finding balance. I went from a job to no job to now maybe looking for another job and running a company, because it's just, I need to find that perfect balance for myself. Like Jessica says, that's going to make me happy on most days. You know what I mean? But I have to find it for myself, and I'm not looking for anyone else to solve that. And so I like the fact that you said it's not gone forever. I'll find it. It's not gone forever, and society doesn't need to push you to hurry up in that snapback mentality of, oh, I'm better now. Absolutely not. It doesn't work that way. And I'm not about to pretend it does. Jessica?
And I'll just be honest, I did not really get back into some of those things that I enjoy doing until after I had my second child, because at that point I was like, my husband is just coming and going. He doing all kinds of stuff he want to do. When he want to go hang out with the guys or go play basketball or do something, he just get up and go. He don't even ask, what you got going on, because he assumed I'm
gonna talk about it.
So I made a conscious decision when I had my second child. Okay, I have to do something, like, because he's not finna have me here just with these kids by myself. Like, so then I started branching out and just like being more intentional with like my friendships, because, we get a little distant when we get older and we get in our career and we, have kids, we start to isolate sometimes. And so I'm glad that you have like your friend group, and, I'm sure you'll figure it out even more as time goes. But yes, thank you for your transparency. And, just know, like, I didn't figure it out until after I had my second one too. So it's okay.
And that's so real, Jessica, that you say that. I have a lot of people in my circle that we're all just trying to navigate this, in the same age we grew up. Like, how do I still be a friend? That maybe not the same friend, but how do I still, and I do find myself isolating a lot. Like, you know what? It ain't even worth it. Cause I gotta find a babysitter. I gotta get a kid ready. I gotta make sure he got all the things to eat. I gotta make sure this, when I begin thinking about that laundry list of things, I'll be like, I'll just stay at home. and drink this glass of wine and, read a book or take a bath tonight or something. So like, I literally just did this. I was in Houston this week, and Brittnee, I'm gonna let you talk after this. And I didn't have my son. He was with his dad, but I was, watching my godchildren, and their grandmother came, and, I was like, I'm going out. I'm going out tonight. I'm going to hang out tonight. I went upstairs, I took a shower, guys. I put my pajamas on and went back downstairs, and she was like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, no, it's not in my cards tonight. Like, it just can't. She was like, what? I thought, we was excited. I'm like, yeah, no, it's already 9 o'clock. Like, like, it's time to go to bed now. But anyway, so I appreciate the transparency, because it's real. It does not happen overnight. This is not no microwave. This is not, parenthood is not microwavable. You cannot put that in the microwave and fix all things. It's not ready. We're not ready. Brittnee, you want to tell us about how you try to maintain your individuality in your everyday life, and, be sure to make time for yourself?
Yes. So I feel like I'm seeing this from two sides here, because I feel like I try to help my mom keep her individuality. Like, that's part of my job during the day. But I also am thinking about, like, okay, wait a minute. I already feel like my days are stacked. How is this going to change when we have our first child, hopefully by the end of the year? Like, I don't see it, but I'm inspired and I'm listening. And like, just, I feel like you guys make great points with just trying to be yourself. And I think making those outside connections, I feel like that always kind of brings you back to, okay, yeah, I'm not that, switching modes basically. So I definitely am also thinking about it, because I feel like I consider myself a homebody. I like to do a lot of activities that are home based. So it's going to be interesting if I get that feeling of like wanting to be out social, as far as other ways to maintain my individuality now that, as the home unit changes.
It makes sense. And that's a really good perspective. Guys, we are at time. This conversation has been extremely good to me. I hope the audience has appreciated your transparency. Guys, I thank you so much for, just being upfront and honest. This is what I want these conversations to be about, because as you mentioned, Cha-Cha, it's so many things we don't talk about. And parenting, and as in Trey's Lunchbox, we know the overarching thing is health, like mental health, gut health, whatever it is, and starting at that young age, building, giving them the tools and things of that nature. And even when we don't meet them there, we're meeting them now as parents. We're saying, hey, look, we can change this thing. We can turn this thing around, and we can do it together, because it does take a village. And I appreciate you guys for being a part of our village, knowing that I can call on you to come help me and to come, give you a platform to talk about the things that are important to us. And with that being said, let the people know how we can support your ambitions right now. How can the audience find you on social media, your website, all the things? If you have anything coming up, let's go ahead and share those things now. And I'll just start as I see you all in gallery mode. I'm going to start with Cha-Cha. Let the people know where they can follow you, spell it out for them, and all of those things, please.
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at It's the Cardamom, ITSTHE Cardamom. If you're interested in one-on-one counseling, you can go to my website, thecardamomnutrition.com. I do encourage you to sign up for my mailing list, because I am starting to build up my blog presence and my free resource library. So you will be the first to be notified about those things. So sign up for my mailing list through my website. And yeah, this was great. Thank you so much for organizing this. I had so much fun.
Yes, shouts out right now to Nightlife Creative. They have literally come through for me. Like we said, as mothers, as parents, as professionals, we juggle so many things. And I am a delegator. Like, I need help. I have big goals. I have big ambitions. I need help. Somebody who can do this better than me, because I'm not the best. I just need to know. I learned in Target 4 founders that, you just need to know enough to be dangerous. And that's good enough for me. That's all I need. Jessica, tell the people how they can find you and support you.
Yes, so they can go to my website, jlcounselingllc.com. and they can find out all my information. They can book with me online. I can counsel people in the state of Louisiana, Texas, and Georgia. Those are the 3 states I'm licensed in. You can follow me on Facebook, or like my business page, JL Counseling LLC on Facebook, and you can follow me on Instagram at JL Counseling LLC.
Awesome. You'll be hearing from me because I have a lot of transition in my life, and I did not know. I didn't even think about it in the way you said, like somebody just hit me up because they moved into another state. I'm like, whoa, that would have been so supportive when I made that move. You know, that would have been so helpful because I'm a type A person. So I'm like literally organizing everything. Boxes had to have stickers on, you know, and I just sometimes felt like I just want to go in the corner and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, can we stop? You know, so that's important. I like that you pointed that out. Brittnee, let the people know how they can follow you and support you right now.
Yes, so you can follow me on Instagram at Your Plant-Based Baby. And I also just started my YouTube. I put my first video up yesterday, so you can subscribe to me from there with the same Your Plant-Based Baby. And you can also go to my website at yourplantbasedbaby.com. And you can contact me. I don't have services up yet, but I am launching in the next month. But I am right now hosting a free Intro to Solids workshop. So if anyone's interested in that, you can go to the link from any of my socials. And yeah, you can join that.
Awesome. I'm glad that you mentioned that because we definitely get a lot of people asking about, well, what do I feed them first? Like, how do I start them on solids? You know, what do I give them? Is this okay? You know, I get so many questions. That's why I'm always sharing y'all stuff like, look, here's some other resources too, like for sure. But I just want to thank y'all again. And just let the audience know that Trey's Lunchbox will be hosting these. This is not the first. This is the first, but it's not the last. It's the first of many. And I believe we're going to try to do this thing bi-monthly. So look for us in this space. We're going to build out our presence more on Facebook. We are launching our first newsletter this month. So I'm excited about that. And y'all just keep supporting these ladies. And I just want to say good night. And thank y'all so much for being here with us, taking your time, because I know we got to get to the kids, get dinner on the table and those type of things. Thank y'all so much again. Any last words? Stephen, did you need to close out anything? Be sure. Yeah, come on, Stephen. Let him close us out. He's the professional here.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you all so much for joining us. I really do hope that you'll join the Trey's Lunchbox family for many, many more of these live streams. Please support each of these amazing, intelligent, dynamic women on this screen because they're doing some amazing work for our communities. And you definitely don't want to miss out on all their future endeavors. They are to be followed. And of course, thank you for allowing me to help coordinate this. I look forward to supporting you and bringing more incredible, dynamic, energetic, vibrant people onto this platform. So yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Good night, ladies. Bye, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.